Krishna everyone. It's my great honor and pleasure to introduce His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji. Today we are going to have the conversation, or the session would be in a slightly different style. So Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji is a brilliant and relatable, one of the most wonderful relatable spiritual voices of our time. So let's all welcome with 3 Hari Bols. Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji is a monk, mentor and author. He has written over 27 books, and in a year he gives about 400 sessions, 400 classes across 100 cities. So today we can imagine that he is giving a session here, but throughout the day he is giving 3 classes. So we can imagine how many sessions he is giving and how busy he is. So it's a great pleasure and wonderful. We should take it as a wonderful opportunity to hear from him. He is a founder of Gita Daily, the world's only daily blog on Bhagavad Gita, and which has about 4,000 reflections, prayers, diagrams, and drawings, graphs, poetry, and it has been published since 2011. He has a YouTube channel where he has about 2,800 videos and podcasts and comments and current controversies as well. He speaks in prestigious forums like Google, IITs, IIMs, so many other places. And one story we remember of him is, a Prabhu devotee in Maharashtra. So Prabhu asked Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji, can you please give a class in Marathi? And Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji said that I can give a class in Marathi, I can talk in Marathi, I can walk in Hindi, but I can dance in English. So his choice of words in English are very articulative, and we will definitely hear about his amazing choice of words and amazing realizations of Krishna consciousness. So let's all welcome again His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji with a loud voice saying one big Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. Last time also we had come, we had a very sweet program here. So let's begin with some prayers. Om Jnana-Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Vedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Veshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Emacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Prabhuji, thank you so much for being here. Despite of your busy schedule, you have agreed to come over here and enlighten all of us. So we would go over art of working, but before that, if you can understand, if you can make us understand, how did you come into Krishna consciousness, or how did you choose the path of being a monk?
Okay. So I'm grateful to be here, and For me, the journey to Krishna consciousness happened in many different stages. Now, if I look back at it, it was mainly 3 stages. The first was, so I'll write and draw a few things over here. So some of you notice I needed crutches for walking. So when I was about 1, I got polio. My mother took me to a polio clinic to get a polio vaccine. Unfortunately, we were in a small town in Maharashtra, and the power supply had gone off in that clinic the previous night. And because of that, the fridge in which the vaccine had been kept had heated up. And because of the heat, the germs in the vaccine had multiplied. And when they gave the vaccine, the attendant or the physician didn't notice that. And that's why it was the vaccine that ended up causing the polio. So now I don't remember that. My remembrance is more of when I was about 2.5 or 3. At that time, a relative had come to meet us, a distant relative, and she was consoling my mother. It's so sad your son got polio. And I remember my mother's voice, very calm, clear, confident, saying, whatever he lacks physically, God will provide him intellectually. I don't know why she said that at that time, but somehow that stayed with me. Not the God part, but the intellectually part, at least initially. So I noticed that I had certain intellectual abilities. I could read rapidly, I could remember reasonably well, could articulate properly. So while it was at one level true that I couldn't play outdoor games like other kids could, and part of me said that is unfair. But somehow what happens is, see, life is unfair to everyone. Sometimes we get, I may have physical handicap. All of us are troubled in some way. Some of us may have some trauma from our past. Some of us may have mental wounds that we may be carrying. So life is unfair. But then one part of me said I didn't do anything to deserve this physical disability. But another part of me came to that understanding that I didn't do anything to deserve this intellectual ability either. So life in the big picture is fairly unfair. It's unfair, but it is, sometimes we get worse than what we deserve, and sometimes we get better than what we deserve. So that's how my focus in my life was always on the intellectual side. Study, education, learning. And I strongly believe that learning would actually help, education would give a higher happiness and would help create a higher world, a better world, you could say. But then when I was studying in engineering, I was one of the top colleges of India, and I noticed that there are a lot of people who had self-destructive habits. So generally, if you consider the vision of our life, if this is the path we are going along, then we all want, there are certain key doors in our life. If those doors are opened, then there is a chance for a bigger and a better life for us. So if we get admission into a good college, or if we get a job in a big company, these are areas where doors open in our life, and when the doors open, then our life becomes bigger. So the whole world is focused on trying to open doors, and that's no doubt important. But I started noticing that this vision came to me later, but in our life there are also trapdoors. Now trapdoors, and in these trapdoors we can fall down. And if the trapdoors are not closed, then we will not be able to rise to our potential. Or some people might just have a very negative mentality. Some people might be very critical of everything, critical of themselves too much. So it was that, because I had a lot of interest in education and learning, so I had started free tuition classes for some kids after I finished my 10th exam. When I was in college, I joined a social welfare organization, and I used to go to slum areas and offer free tuition classes to the kids over there. And then these kids started talking with me, we became friends. I started telling about their life because they were in poverty. It was quite difficult to see how they were living. But what they told me was heart-wrenching. There was alcoholism, especially with the parent, there was domestic violence. And when I would, especially with the fathers, when I would talk with the fathers, they seemed to be nice people. They were grateful that I was coming and teaching their kids. But then the kids would say that once he gets a bottle of alcohol in his hand, he becomes a different person. So then we decided to diversify into a little bit of anti-alcohol campaigning. We got some specialists come and speak, give some inspiration and guidance. We also learned some principles. And in a small part of a slum, everybody there agreed to give up alcohol. And we considered a big success. And then I went for my semester break. And when I came back, I found not only the parents, but even the kids had started drinking. So in the intermission, there had been an election. And for that municipality election, one of the candidates, in order to woo the voters, had brought truckloads of liquor and given free. So that's when I started thinking that, okay, there are these, I'm trying to, through education, open the doors, but there are these trap doors. If people fall into those trap doors, then they're not going to succeed in life. So how do I close those trap doors? And it was not just a problem out there. I saw in my own college. There was one student who had been university topper throughout. And then he was brilliant in engineering. He was also, I studied electronics and telecommunications. He was brilliant, but he was also a chain smoker. And he got at that time the highest paying job in the history of our college. And then within 6 months of having that job, he was diagnosed with advanced lung cancer. In 1 year he passed away. It's tragic. So I started seeing this everywhere. One of my close friends, very responsible boy, coming from a very, not a very well-to-do family. The parents had taken loans to get him into college. And he had somehow, after not doing well in one exam, had got into alcoholism as a way to cope with it. He was just not able to give it up. I was trying to help him, but he was just gliding. I could see him sliding. It is not all out there only. It's for me also. When I was growing up, fortunately, I didn't have any very serious bad habits, but I had a bit of a bad temper. So now, having a bad temper is a problem. But I had another problem. It was actually not a problem in one sense. That was since my childhood, I was very interested in words. One of my hobbies is just pick up a dictionary and memorize words. And because of that, I developed quite a good vocabulary. And I discovered that a good vocabulary and a bad temper is a deadly combination. So, if somebody just has a bad temper, they just get angry, sometimes they just become incoherent. Just yelling, you can see that they're angry, but this person just gone off the rails. We don't take it very seriously. But if somebody has a good vocabulary, they can be sarcastic, they can keep biting, they can cause wounds that can last a lifetime. So that's when I realized that I didn't want to hurt others, but I was hurting others. So I also felt that this trapdoor is there and I need to close it. So that's when, fortunately, I started reading more of psychology, philosophy, spirituality. Then I discovered the Bhagavad Gita. And when I discovered the Bhagavad Gita, I found that there's this 3.36 verse, Athakena prayuktoyam papam charati purusha anichchanapi varshneya baladi vanyojita. What is it that impels people to self-destructive actions? So this is the question that has been haunting me also. I started practicing the principles of the Bhagavad Gita, studying the philosophy, cultivating especially Bhakti Yoga and remembering Krishna. And I found that these unhealthy habits started, these trapdoors started closing. I can't say all trapdoors are closed in my life, but many of them started closing. And then after graduation, I worked in a multinational software company in India. That time, because I had been so inspired by the knowledge of the Gita, I also decided I want to share it with others. I used to have small study groups in the evening, sometimes 2-3 times in a week. So once I had a program scheduled, and then my boss told me that you have an urgent work deadline, you have to stay late today. I said, I'll come back early morning. I can come back very early and I'll complete the work before you come back tomorrow. He said, no, You have to complete it today itself. So I tried to adjust someone and have some other speaker go for that program. But there was no one available and I had to cancel the program. Then at around midnight, I was coming back to the place I was staying. And I was thinking that if I am not writing these software programs, I have nothing against software programs, but if I am not doing this, there are 100 other people who will be ready to do this. Many of them may be able to do it better than me also. But if I am not teaching the Bhagavad Gita, how many people are there who are actually doing that? So I felt in terms of contributing to society, I felt there is a need, and I had also got the opportunity. It's not just opportunity, but also the resource, the wisdom that could bring about a needed transformation. That's when I decided that I would like to focus on studying and sharing the Gita's knowledge. That was around 1999.
The story is so enlightening, Prabhuji. When you were saying the story of telling to your boss that you will come back tomorrow, I was remembering the story of a lion and a cow. The cow says that I'm going to go to my owner and I'm going to tell the owner that I'll come back tomorrow, but I have to tell to my owner that you take care of the responsibilities. And he kept the promise, so I was just remembering that story. But your story is very enlightening, Prabhuji. Thank you. So you have written so many books. I think currently 27 books, Prabhuji, or more than that, maybe.
Yeah, this is the 28th.
28th. Okay. Wow. So the recent book is Gita for the CEOs. So is the
Yeah, please go.
is there any other book recent than that, or?
Yeah, these two are the recent ones. So Gita for the CEO came out in around December, and this came out in Prayers Inspired by the Bhagavad Gita came out in March.
Okay, wow. So is the Gita for the CEOs, is it only for the CEOs or is it for the general ordinary people as well? Like all of us?
Nobody except a CEO should touch it. Otherwise it will explode in their hands. So actually there is an increasing trend in the corporate world nowadays to look towards ancient texts for some wisdom. In the West, Stoicism has become very popular now. There's Daily Stoic, which is a very well-read book. Then there is, from Japan, there's Ikigai. And so people are turning towards traditional wisdom. So HarperCollins is a prominent publisher. So they asked me to write a book on the Gita and the wisdom from the Gita for a corporate world. So I explained in the introduction that the Gita is a spiritual book, but it's not just a spiritual book, because Arjuna is a great devotee. At the same time, Arjuna is a warrior and a leader, and he has to function in the world. So the Gita is a book that is meant to guide us to play responsible roles in the world also. So the Gita for the CEO, it is presenting the Gita from a corporate perspective. What are the principles of the Gita that could be relevant for people who are in the corporate world? Except that I use the acronym SIP, S-I-P, that all of us have to become a self-leader. There are many parts inside us. One part says I want to enjoy, one part says I want to gossip, one part says I want to just relax, one part says I want to achieve something. So we have to harmonize these various parts within us. Krishna talks about how Prakriti sthani karshati, that senses, our mind are pulling us in different directions, and that's why we feel a sort of tension and even exhaustion inside us. So to become a self-leader is important. Then beyond that, each one of us is an informal leader at whatever level, in our family, for our children, and even our behavior is watched by others. It affects others. All of you sitting and you are eagerly hearing. If one of you nods off, others may see that, okay, see this one, I will also nod off a little bit. And then yad acharati sreshtas. So everybody can nod off. So what happens? Informally, our actions affect others quite a bit. And third is that potential. None of us knows how much potential God has planted in our hearts, in what all gifts He has given and how much those gifts can be developed. So it is for everyone, not just people who are currently CEOs, but those who want to be self-leaders, those who are informal leaders, and those who have the potential for leadership.
Is it more for teaching Gita to others, or is it for their own self-realization as well?
Yeah, it is more about how to apply the Gita in our day-to-day life, especially in a professional setting. So, for example, now we may talk about humility and tolerance, and may feel these are not practical values in the corporate world. People will walk over me. Well, that's one way of looking at it, and that may be true. But if we consider humility, humility does not mean devaluing ourselves or our opinions. Humility, one way to understand it is that it is valuing something bigger than ourselves. It's not about devaluing ourselves. But, so I may have some ideas, I may have some insights, and they are important, no doubt. But maybe I can be open to others also, valuing something bigger than ourselves. So the way I present humility over there is that it can help us be better team players. Even if somebody is a team lead, to be more open to the suggestions of the team. That's where humility comes in. Just because I am a team leader, I should not feel the burden that I have to know more than everybody else in the team. And I should not feel threatened if in a particular area some team member is more expert than me. So humility can be a virtue that can help us in corporate world, or if it's understood properly and applied properly. Similarly, I talk about mindfulness, and especially how so many mental health problems are coming in today's world, and many big companies nowadays are encouraging seminars on mindfulness or meditation or some ways to calm the mind, to become more collected in terms of dealing with our emotions. So I talk about the Gita's wisdom for how to keep a mind calm amidst ups and downs of life. So in that sense, it is for consider the challenges that we face in life and how we can face those challenges with a spiritually more informed worldview. There is a chapter on work as worship. Now, some of the Gita 18.47 is sometimes translated as work as worship. So, work as worship means work itself is worship. So, I say that's not exactly what the Gita teaches. It says, Swakarmana tamabhyarcha. Through your work, you can do worship. So, how we can have a more affirmative and more spiritual vision of our role in society. That's also explained. So, like that, Gita for the corporate life world.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Actually, what you have mentioned is work as worship. This is one of my question as well. So it's my father-in-law. Even my father too, but he believes in what you mentioned as, he used to believe, work as worship. So when he used to work all 7 days and no break at all. And if any of his workers is not coming to work on even Sunday, and if they are going to church, then he would ask, work is worship. You should come to work even on your holiday. Don't think that you should take a break from your work, because work is worship. You don't have to worship differently. How can we understand this?
Yeah. With all due respect, whenever somebody uses the phrase "with all due respect," you can anticipate that what is going to be spoken is not going to be very respectful. So, with all due respect, if work itself were worship, then the donkey would be the greatest worshipper. The donkey works so hard. So now work is worship. It can be an ethical principle where no work or worker is devalued simply because of the work that they are doing. And in that sense, that is good. So for example, now here in India, unfortunately, there was a caste system which was a degeneration of the traditional Varnashram system. So now that's why some people are doing particular kind of work, they are looked down upon, they were treated as untouchables. So that is unhealthy. So work is worship if it is seen as an ethical principle. Ethical means that every work has value and every worker deserves to be accorded some basic human dignity. So here I see in America, people from even wealthy families, kids at the age of 15, 16, 17, 18, They may start doing some job, they may wait tables while they are studying in university college to earn some money by the side. And it's not that the parents get, this is below our dignity. They're getting some experience, they're growing. So in that sense, if work is worship is seen as an ethical principle, that is good, so to respect everyone. But if it is seen as a philosophical principle, then it becomes a problem. Two ways. One way is that it can become a justification for workaholism. So workaholism is like alcoholism, but it's a different way. See, the Gita talks about our sense of identity. There is, our identity is a complex concept. See, there is our social identity. Social identity means say you are a woman, I am a monk. These are our social identities. Say most of the Indians, some of you may be American citizens already. A social identity. And then there is our personal identification. What do we identify ourselves with? Our social identity and our personal identification. So for example, if somebody is a parent as well as a corporate leader, a very responsible post, and then they have a work emergency, and at that same time, say when the school some phone comes, there's the PTA meeting or something is there, or something, there's some issue with the child and they want you to come to school. What do we do at that time? So now this is where there are two dharmas. That the dharma as the parent and the dharma as the professional. So now which a person will choose will depend on which they identify with. The person primarily identifies, I'm a parent. Everything else comes later. And they say, I have to go. If they identify themselves primarily as a professional, they may say, yeah, it's not that they don't care, but it's through my profession that I'm able to care for my family. So I have to do this job. So there is the social identity and there's our personal identification. So now if somebody is working in a company or somebody has their own company, startup or whatever, now that becomes their identity. But how much is that their identification? So for people who are workaholics, their work becomes their full identification. And they have no sense of self-worth apart from their work. If I am not working, then who am I? And for such people, if they lose their job or if they face some professional setback, it has a far more severe psychological impact on them. So workaholism is where the work becomes the defining identity of the person. And the person just can't survive, can't even conceive of a life beyond work. And that kind of obsession with any one role in life is very unhealthy. Because people may be professionally successful and they may be better relationally, they may be as failures. Psychologically, they may be a mess. So Krishna talks about this as knowledge in the mode of ignorance, where yattu krutsnavad ekasmin karye saktamahetukam. We take one thing in life and make it into everything. So that is not healthy. When we are doing work, certainly we have to do it properly. But workaholism is not justified by the Bhagavad Gita. This is, workaholism would be, Krishna says, what happened here? In 18.22 in the Bhagavad Gita talks about, it is knowledge in the mode of ignorance. Now the other problem with this is, work is worship is ethically true, philosophically it's a problem. That's one problem with it. The other problem with it is that it makes any kind of distinct spiritual practice as completely unnecessary. But that is not true. Now Krishna says, Ma manusmara yutyacha. You remember me and fight. So in general, when we function in life, philosophically it makes spiritual practice or just spiritual nourishment, spiritual development, it makes spiritual practice seem unnecessary. But we all have various sides to our life and all of them need to be nourished properly. So work is worship is a misunderstanding of the Gita's teaching. Work as worship means it's slightly different. Normally our conception may be that, say, I am here and this is the world I live in and this is my, say, office, and I go here to work, and now above this is God, is Krishna. So we may think that this is my spiritual life because this is where I'm connected with Krishna. Yeah. This is where I'm connected with Krishna. And say, this is my material life, this is my mundane life. And this is one way of looking at it, there's some validity to it. But Krishna does not just exist in the temple. Krishna doesn't just exist on the altar. Krishna exists in our hearts. Krishna is everywhere. Krishna is in our workplace also. So a more inclusive understanding is that Krishna exists in the spiritual world, but Krishna exists everywhere. In fact, Krishna exists in everything and everything exists in Krishna. This is the vision of an advanced yogi. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam chamai pashyati. Therefore, you could say, there is one way we serve Krishna and there's another way also we serve Krishna. So we serve Krishna directly through our sadhana. This is the direct time we devote to our work, to our spiritual growth. So we do our puja, we do our japa, we do our come to satsanga. That is the time we give a direct connection with Krishna. But along with that, we also serve Krishna through our various roles in the world. And all these roles can be seen as our seva. So seva is what we come to a temple and do some cooking or cleaning, that's seva. But along with that, our job can also be done in the mood of a seva. So in that sense, we can have a spiritual vision of our work also.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I think this is a very profound way of thinking that work as worship, not work is worship, and how we can use work with respect to like Krishna. It can be Krishna conscious as well. It just doesn't have to be mechanical, but it can be Krishna conscious. But with that having said that, we have already started with our topic for today, but I'll just introduce to the audience what is the topic for today. It is art of working. We have already got the introduction of art of working. So we will, with the highlight of art of working, we will highlight three major points. It will be art of working with ambition at work, art of working with affection for family, and art of working with alignment for the Gita, with the Gita. So first topic is ambition at work. So as you have stated, like how we can use work as worship. But Prabhuji, from Bhagavad Gita, we see that Krishna is telling to Arjuna that don't be attached to your result. Rather do your duty, but don't be attached to your result. So how can we understand this on a practical way? Because we are all working for the result, for promotion, or for better pay. So how can we not be attached to the result and stay motivated as well?
Yeah. So, very practical and important question. I'd say ambition is generally associated with growth. We all want to grow in life. And that's just natural. Each one of us was just one tiny cell in our mother's body, in her womb. And now we have millions, billions of cells in our body. And we are fully formed human beings. So the body grows. So we are meant to grow. So if we consider ambition as an expression of growth, then that's just natural. Arjuna was an archer and he wanted to become the best archer. So God has given us certain gifts. And it is our duty to develop those gifts. And developing those gifts is also a service to God. So in that sense, ambition can go into different directions. When I say ambition means growth. Now, how do I want to grow? I want to grow, is it in recognition? The world should know how good I am. and people should praise me? Or is it in terms of contribution? Now, which among these two is good?
Contribution.
This is the expected correct answer. So actually, what would be best is if we get both, isn't it? So if we consider there's recognition and there is contribution, you put them as the x and y axis. So if we are doing some good work and we are appreciated for the good work, recognized for it, so we could say this is the best, this is the most fulfilling part. So somebody has cooking ability, somebody has coding ability, somebody has talented in maths, and then they become very good in it. So they are achieving certain level of excellence, and that's also being recognized. So we could say this is the best. Now, which would be the worst? So if you consider 4 quadrants over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, starting from the right bottom, which would be the worst? 2 would be the worst. How many of you agree with 2 is the worst? Okay. How many of you don't agree 2 is the worst? How many of you think something else is the worst?
3.
Okay. Actually, 2 is bad, but 1 is the worst. It's like somebody is very famous as a good doctor, but they're not a good doctor. That's a very big problem, isn't it? A lot of people go and take treatment over there, but somehow they do something and they have a big PR wing with them, and that's why they get many awards. But all the patients, what is happening is they go to the doctor, yad gatvana nivartante. They go there. So, if there is recognition without contribution, that will actually cause a lot of disruption in society. Now, if you buy a phone, there are a lot of advertisement of the phone they do. And everybody else, they pay endorsers and they get a lot of hype about the phone. And the phone actually doesn't perform well at all. Then, this is where it will be a big problem. So, recognition without contribution causes a lot of disruption. And this is the worst because people trust and then their trust is betrayed. Now, if there is no contribution, there is no recognition. That's bad. This is where a person's life starts feels meaningless. They feel, what am I doing? Nobody wants to be a non-entity in their life. Nobody wants to have that feeling that my life does not matter at all. And especially, you see, for everyone, not everyone will become famous or popular. But at least in the past, there was a structure to society. So everybody, say, if they grow up, they would develop some kind of skill, to get married, have a family. And that itself, taking care of a family, gives some sense of artha to our life. I'm doing something of value. Now, every parent would want that maybe we have a very big house or our children become geniuses. That may or not happen, but just there is some level of contribution that is there. But nowadays when families are breaking apart, society is also so destabilized that many people will live with the sense that I'm not doing much, or I don't even know what I'm meant to do, and I'm not being recognized also. So in social media has sent a lot of people into this second quadrant. Because what happens in social media, there is incessant comparison. I post something, and then if say some kids, if some teenagers post something, and how many likes did I get? And he or she posted something, why did they get so many likes? People like me less and people like that person more. It causes so much anguish.
Yes, like especially on LinkedIn, Prabhuji. If you want, like, I felt, I just kept watching it. Like, so many overachievers, I feel I should commit suicide. I have achieved nothing in life. Just like it's a thought that comes, It's full of people. Oh, I'm glad to announce this.
Really? Okay.
It's too much.
Yeah. There's a lot of room for self-promotion. And some of it maybe even, it's like they may not be white lies, but they may be exaggeration. One of my friends, he studied in IIM, and they had a whole course on, this is not a criticism of IIM, but they had a course on how you can make your CV more impressive. So there they said that if you're walking by a road, then and you see a tap is on, and a few drops are dripping from it, you go and turn off the tap, and you can add in your CV, I'm a water conservation activist. So some of it can be exaggeration also, but anyway, it just create a lot of sense of insecurity and unworthiness for our life. Now, if you see among contribution and recognition, we would like to have both. But which among these is more in our control and which is less in our control? Yes, contribution it's more in our control. You could say it's more controllable. And recognition is less controllable. So if you consider from this perspective, now if we are in a phase where we are able to make a contribution but we are not getting recognition, there will be some amount of dissatisfaction. And that's just natural, that's just human. Now when we are here, from here we can try to go here, or we may end up going here. That means that I'm doing some contribution but I'm not getting recognition. Then I try to learn and adjust in some way by which I try to go towards getting recognition also. But so this is a healthy response. Unhealthy response is, if I'm not getting recognition, then why make any contribution at all? That will not be healthy in any way. If you consider the advancement of knowledge, it is that there are some scientists, some technologists, they make some extraordinary inventions, extraordinary discoveries or developments, and they become famous. But then their work has been built on a legacy of work done by predecessors. And so I think it's Newton who said that if I have seen further than others, that is because I have been standing on the shoulders of giants. So what happens is sometimes some people may be doing important work, but they may not get the recognition. So actually, the Gita 2.47, it encourages us that if it helps us to tolerate the phase, to endure, to tolerate, to be patient, or you could say to be persistent in this phase. The Gita is not saying don't care for the results. It is not saying that at all. So 2.47, I'll explain now 2.47. I hope this particular 4-quadrant diagram is clear. Somebody is a good artist. They're making beautiful painting. But is it that, say, somebody wins an award? There is Academy of Oscar Awards, Oscar significantly devalued, Booker Awards for authors, so many awards are there. Is it that the film which wins the Oscar Academy Awards is necessarily absolutely the best film in the universe? In the year, at least in the world that year? Not necessarily. As so many factors come in, there are political considerations, there are so many other considerations about who gets the award. So some people may just not get the recognition. So if you consider 2.47 is Karmanye Vadekaraste Mahapaleshu Kadachana. So Krishna is saying, be detached from the results. So from results, Krishna says, be detached. But then in that same chapter, before, in 2.41, Krishna says, Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kuru nandana bahushakaya nandascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. He says that we should have one goal. As far as goals are concerned, Krishna is saying, be fixed, be focused. Don't have 100 goals. Bahushakaya nandascha. Last year one devotee had come to me and says, he says, 2024 is going to be the best year of my life. I said, yeah, wonderful, how is that? He said, I have made 108 resolutions for 2020. And these resolutions will transform my life. So I said, again, with all due respect, 108 is not resolutions. It is a wish list. Nobody can stick to 108 resolutions. We'll not even remember the 108 resolutions. Maybe 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, that's about what is manageable for us. More than that, it just becomes unmanageable. So, Krishna is saying, have one goal, be fixed on that goal. So, Krishna is not telling, don't care for the goals. But what is the goal that we care for? See, goals and results, these are not the same thing. Goals are what we set before the work. Before the work that we do, we set goals. Results are what we get after the work. So our goals are associated with our contribution. I am going to put my 100%. Sometimes somebody will like, I'm going to put 200%. Well, nobody can put 200%. Like sometimes, some devotees, they try to, without thinking, they try to exaggerate. So one devotee came to me and said, Prabhu, your class has brought a 360-degree change in my attitude. So normally what do we say? 180 degrees. 360 with no change at all. So nobody can put 200% effort. We can put 100% effort. And what 100% means will also vary from different people from person to person. But the thing is, goals are set so that we can maximize our contribution. But results are in terms of the recognition. So we all would like to have the recognition. But sometimes it may not work. Sometimes the factors, our results, the results that we get are not determined by our present actions alone. Normally we think of this principle that if I do action, I'll get the result. So if I put in 100 units of work, I'll get 100 units of result. Karma and the phala. But life does not work like that. Many times. Sometimes we put in 100 units of work and you might get 10 units of result. Sometimes we work very hard in a project and then when the project is completed, somebody else comes and steals all the credit. And then our name just comes as one footnote over there. So, that sometimes happens. That's how life is unfair. But sometimes it may also happen that we put in 10 units of work and we get 100 units of result. We join a team in minutes, the project is nearly getting completed. We do a little bit work and the project becomes successful and we are considered a part of the winning team. That also happens. In India won the World Cup. There's one player in the team who never played a single match. And yet his picture was there in all the World Cup winning team. Picture. So basically, why am I talking about this here? Why does this happen? Because the results come not just by our present karma, but also by our past karma. Yes. So, sometimes when I am doing 100 units of work, but from my past some negative karma may come in. And because of that, I may not get the result that my present action merits. So, sometimes we may be very polite with someone and that person is very cold with us. Hey, what a weird person. But it may be that in the past we have been cold with that person. And we have forgotten that, but that person hasn't forgotten it. So now we may have to require a little more effort to earn that person's trust and for them to develop warmth towards us. Sometimes it also happens that from the positive we might get plus 90. And so basically this bigger picture helps us understand, it's understanding this bigger picture is very helpful to be able to work effectively in life. Why? See, among these three factors, if you consider, which of these is in our control? Yeah, so present karma, is in our control. Now, okay, let's use simpler words instead of in our control. I would say that this is desirable for us. This is controllable by us. Now, this is desirable for us. We want the results. We want the results from our work. And what about the past karma? It is uncontrollable. Sometimes it may even be unknowable for us. Some people are sometimes so upset with us that they don't even tell why I'm upset with you. Isn't it? I'm upset with you because of what you did, and I'm even more upset that you don't even remember what you did. So it happens. So among these three, actually this alone is what is controllable for us. So karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. What happens by this is, if we understand this particular way of looking at life, then we will be able to always put in our contribution and not get too agitated if the results don't come. So ambition is good, but what is our ambition towards? Our ambition, if we can have it towards becoming or towards maximizing our contribution rather than increasing our expectation or our attachment to the results, then that ambition will keep us on the path of growth. If the ambition is more towards getting the results, then that ambition can actually lead us to frustration. So, I'll just draw one more diagram and complete this. That we will all have ambition. That's good. That's natural. But what is our ambition directed towards? If it is directed towards, it can be the same diagram now. It could be directed towards recognition, or it could be directed towards contribution. Now what happens is, if it is directed towards, if we get recognition and contribution, if there's only recognition without contribution, then we will become very prideful. Prideful is, we will be very, very concerned about maintaining our reputation without the substance. And that's not very healthy. Now, if we have neither contribution nor this, we will become resentful. Why is everybody better than me? Why is my life nothing? I'm neither able to do anything nor am I valued for doing anything. But if our focus is more on contribution than on recognition, then we will be grateful. By what do I mean by contribution over here? Contribution means using the gifts Krishna has given us. That I want to use my gifts to do something of value in my life. That contribution comes from a sense of spiritual connection. The gifts have been given by me to Krishna, given to me by Krishna, and I want to use them. And then the recognition is where our gifts are recognized, our gifts are valued. The gifts are valued by the world. Now that may or may not happen. So, if we think in terms of gifts, we are grateful. If the recognition doesn't come, then still we can be graceful. Graceful means, yes, our life will still be meaningful. I'm doing something of value. Sometimes I'll be recognized, sometimes I may not be recognized. Okay. So, I have the gift of making a small question into a long answer. I have to interrupt with my gift.
Actually, this is very helpful for us. Your long answers definitely help because they are giving us the background of and how we can practically apply in our day-to-day life. So thank you, Prabhuji. But one follow-up question on this is, so as devotees, we understand that we focus on the contribution rather than the desired result. So as devotees, can we compete with other peers, or can we also work more for the salary, or should we only do the contribution part and not care for the result?
Okay, it's a good question. I just want to add a few points from the previous question. I would like to add, especially from a parenting perspective. See, generally, when we appreciate our children, when we praise our children, so what do we praise them for? We have the opportunity, we can praise them for their contribution, or we can praise them for their recognition. Say, that means, oh, you came first in class, that's wonderful. You know, I saw during this semester, every day you are studying diligently. That is good. So when we praise them only for the recognition, especially the way parents deal with their children, that shapes the self-esteem of the children. So generally praise, not just praise in the sense of artificial praise, but authentic praise, that shapes how others appreciate us, that shapes our self-esteem a lot. Now, if we are focusing only on the recognition, then the self-esteem becomes very extrinsic for the child. That, okay, only when I achieve this particular recognition, only when I come first in class, only when I win this particular prize, then my parents will love me, parents will care for me. Now that having too much of an extrinsic self-worth is not very healthy. The other hand, if we appreciate their contribution, then that enables them to have intrinsic self-worth. It's like we say, a job well done. What you did was good. And you put in your efforts. So if our children, after doing their best part, doing what now we can say everybody can do more than what they have done. But if they put in their efforts and somehow their success doesn't come, at that time, are we judging them or are we supporting them? No, it depends now. Judging is not always wrong. Sometimes that's what is required for them to pull their act together. But sometimes at that time they may need support also. That, okay, they tried their best, something did work out. So basically, this karmandi gavadikaraste, this is the way we apply it in parenting also. That we appreciate our children's contribution more than their recognition. Not that recognition is not to be appreciated, definitely. So now, with that in point, both can be appreciated, but recognition everybody will appreciate. You know, if we don't appreciate a child when they do something wonderful, it's recognized by the world, there's something really wrong with us. We should be appreciating, no doubt. But even when the results won't come, we need to be appreciating the efforts. Now, should we seek recognition? Should we seek growth in terms of the rewards also? Yes, we should. See, the material world functions according to certain principles. There are 3 principles. I was planning to speak more on this in tomorrow's Sunday class. Krishna willing. So there are 3 Sanskrit words. There is Prakriti, there is Sanskriti, and there is Vikriti. Now Prakriti is nature, and the rule of Prakriti is might is right. That is a simple and universal rule of nature. If a deer can't run fast, might doesn't have to be physical might alone, might can be in terms of skills. But deer can't run fast enough, a tiger will pounce on it and eat it. Now, if a person is trapped in this, there's this bullfighting arenas are there. In America it's quite popular. So if somebody is doing a radio performance, that person is trapped in the arena with a big mad bull. And the bulls are charging and this person, but I'm a vegetarian. Now, being a vegetarian is good. But that doesn't mean the bull is not going to charge towards you. The material world operates by the principle might is right. Now, Sanskriti means that it is might plus virtue is right. That virtue means good qualities. That it is Sanskriti means it is not just might is right, but it is people who have might also have virtue. Now Vikriti means might plus vice is right. Wise is people who have bad qualities. So the Pandavas were great devotees. They were very virtuous. But as long as they didn't have might, they had to suffer. No, Bhima was poisoned. Then the Pandavas were attempted to be burned alive. They had to live in the forest. Yudhishthira was virtuous, but as long as he did not have the gambling ability, and Shakuni was a better gambler than him, he lost. So might is right. So for Arjuna, when he won the Kurukshetra war, did he win it using the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita or using the knowledge of a knowledge of archery that he had learned from Drona and mastered throughout his life? Which do you think was it? Both you can say. Which is more important? That's what you're expected to say. Both are there, but Abhimanyu also was virtuous. Abhimanyu was also talented, but Abhimanyu was tricked, it is true. But then, in the material world, might is right. Jatayu's cause was great, but Jatayu was old. And Ravana did not actually defeat him. Ravana just exhausted him. And then he was able to defeat him. So in the material world is a harsh place. And might is right is the fact always. So as devotees also, if we want to have some influence in the world, then we want to do a contribution. But so in terms of might and virtue I'm talking about is here that focusing on contribution is a virtue. But it is recognition that brings might. So might is also important for a devotee. Srila Prabhupada, it was when he was in India, if you read his writings, the 1940s and 50s, they are just as filled with spiritual realization as what he wrote in the 1960s and 70s. But when he didn't have followers, at that time nobody cared for what he did. Isn't it? So, should we seek recognition? Yes. But should we crave for it and make it the sole definition of our success? No. But definitely if we find out that, okay, I'm making contribution and that is not being recognized, so we can inquire, what am I not doing right over here? What can I do better? And then we try to do that. Say if you're going in a particular place for distributing books and there people don't take books at all. Now we should, okay, I'm doing karmandeva adhikaraste mahaphaleshu kadach. It's good in terms of attitude, but we have to also, it's a responsibility. We want the results also for. We don't want the results just for our sake, we want them for Krishna's sake. So we should say, okay, maybe in this particular area, the people are at such income level that they can't afford books. Or maybe the whole mood of this particular place is that people just don't wait to talk with others. Then maybe we have to go to some other place. Or maybe we have to come there at some other time. So seeking recognition itself is not wrong. But the quest for recognition, two things. Recognition should not become the sole purpose of doing what we are doing. And certainly recognition should not become the sole criteria by which we evaluate the worth of our activity and worth of our existence itself. Okay.
Thank you for shedding light onto the question.
I was just to add to
We'll get the mic.
Prabhuji, on the question of might, just like one practical challenge is like when going for leadership position, maintaining quality sadhana, quality health, quality prasadam, and also giving 10-12 hours to work, it's like almost next to impossible to sustain that. So while other people are able to, like I would say, do much more because they don't have that 4-5 hour commitment that we need for our health and sadhana. So I mean, it's a difficulty to manage. While ambition is definitely there and okay, we want to contribute and also get recognized.
Yeah. There are two ways of looking at it. One is that, is it always true that putting in more hours of work leads to more results? Not always. It depends. Sometimes our mind is just so blank. Just sitting and trying to do work when the mind is blank will only exhaust and frustrate us further. So in one sense, having multiple activities to do in our life it nourishes multiple parts of us and helps us to actually function better. I talk with many devotees and even with many students. Once they start practicing bhakti, actually the same amount of time they are able to do more work. They are able to focus more, they are able to study better, grasp better. So while we are doing our work, we need to give our whole heart. So it's not always true that more time will necessarily equate more work. But having said that, it is also true that at a particular level, if two people have the same level of talent and one person is going to invest more time, then actually they're going to achieve more. So each one of us has to make decisions over here. Now, what is how important for us? So it is that if we consider this is Krishna and say this is the world and we are here in the world. So what we have, that is Krishna's gift to us. And what we do with what we have is our gift to Krishna. So for us, it's a cycle. If we have your talents, you have your abilities, we want to develop them. But then for us, it is important to remember that Krishna is more important than the world. We may say that this is our gift to Krishna, but what may end up happening is it becomes our gift to our own selves. My own ego, my own fame. And Krishna just becomes like Krishna becomes a complete background, somewhere remote presence. Like, yeah, we give credit to Krishna only when we are speaking about, otherwise we don't even think about Krishna. That won't help us to grow spiritually. So, we need to have a balance in our life. When Narad Muni comes to meet Yudhishthir Maharaj after he has become the king, so he says that as a grahastha, you will have 3 things in your life. That is dharma, artha and kama. So you could say dharma broadly can be said to be our spiritual practices. Artha is our job and kama is our family. So he says that don't pursue dharma at the expense of artha and kama. Don't pursue artha at the expense of dharma and kama. And don't pursue kama at the expense of dharma and artha. So have a balance of all these 3 things. So you could say our spiritual side, our relational side, and our professional side. So all 3 need to be pursued, and we need to pursue them in a holistic way. Now there are times in our life when we may want to focus on one of these more. We have some very urgent project deadline, then we have to focus on the professional role more. Like somebody says there's a work emergency, yeah, then we have to focus. But if every day is a work emergency, then we need some emergency planning about our work itself. If emergency is becoming the norm, then it's not an emergency. You have to reschedule our life in some ways. So broadly, we want to grow on all 3 alleys in our life. And can somebody who has a significant amount of spiritual commitment grow as much in professional life as those who do not have that commitment? Let's say that's why we can't have a unidimensional definition of growth. It's like we have the story that like a tortoise and the hare. Somebody might just with one commitment, that person may grow very much, but will they be able to sustain it throughout their life? They might right now, but they neglect relationship, they neglect health, they neglect their own cultivation of soul, whatever they understand it to be. They may not be able to sustain it for long. So all 3 need to be balanced. Now, within that, one of them may need to be prioritized at some particular time, and that's okay. And even with respect to professional growth, I have seen that there are 2 different, broadly, it's just like a spectrum. There are some people for whom it's what they are doing is just a job. And for some people, very few, it's a passion for them. That means, I have to earn the living, I want to live respectably, and this is the job I have got, this is the skills I have learned, I want to do this. So they don't have like a great interest in that. It's not that they hate it, it's not a healthy thing. But it's not that they have a great interest in it. Some people, that's what is they're driven by. Even in schools or colleges, we'll see that some kids, they may do well in exams, but some kids, they want to read reference books, they want to publish papers, they just want to go deep into that field. So it's also, we have to see that if it's just a job for us, then if we spend too much time in it, and we will not be able to spend time without becoming resentful. Because when it is just a job, we will crave for recognition. Because what happens is, when you say be satisfied with the contribution, that we can be satisfied with the contribution when we are getting some intrinsic satisfaction with it. Shriyan sadharmo viguna dharma sunishutat. So for all of us, when we do our job, there is some intrinsic satisfaction that comes because I just like doing this. Sometimes our kids may be there, you just give them some canvas and give them some slate and they just start drawing and they are happy drawing. They don't need anything else. So there's some intrinsic satisfaction. They give them some musical instrument, they just keep playing the instrument and they enjoy it. So when there's a passion, there is some intrinsic satisfaction in it. If that is not there, if you basically don't like your job so much, and then we are working at that job obsessively, we will become frustrated. We will become very, very resentful why our hard work is not being recognized so much. So that's not a healthy stage to be in. So if we are doing it only for extrinsic satisfaction, I just want some recognition, I want some wealth, then doing it too much will not be healthy. Or even if we do it for some time because maybe I have some financial needs right now. But overall, it's a balance that we have to seek among all three roles.
There might be a situation in which when you have that matrix, contribution and recognition. I was reminded of a situation where Prabhupada actually, some disciples came to pick him from the airport, and he asked them about, okay, what is the status of this? So they all gave him perfect answers. And he said, you lost a great opportunity to be chastised by your spiritual master. So I was thinking, like, when it comes to spiritual master, right? I think don't you think what is better, recognition or chastisement? I feel chastisement is what one should, because you have more chance of purification.
See, your purification should not be more important than your spiritual master's pleasure. Isn't it?
I think recognition for you.
No, but either way. See, we should not be so self-centered in our relationship with our spiritual master that should we do something which does not please our spiritual master so that they will chastise and we become purified? Certainly not. No. So, in general, it is that we want to serve and please our spiritual master. And if they are pleased, we should be happy. Should we crave for chastisement? No, we certainly we should not do things that will invite chastisement. That will be displeasing the spiritual master. But it is also a sign that if we have a close relationship with the spiritual master, then the spiritual master may actually chastise. Because otherwise the relationship is a little less close. Then the spiritual master may feel that if I chastise this person may become discouraged, this person may go away, and that's not healthy. So it's not that we crave for recognition. It is that with our relationship with our spiritual master, okay, there's a spectrum, it's like there is appreciation, and there is glorification. Now, appreciation is a human need. we all, when we do something, we would like to be appreciated. Say, if we cook prasad for a program, or if we do some logistics, we make a sound system, we arrange something. After that, whoever is the organizer, who is in charge, we say, we want to know, did we do it well? And appreciation is a normal human need. And that has to be fulfilled. Amanina manadena. Manadena, what does that? It doesn't mean that empty glorification. It is like whenever somebody is doing something good, we should be offering respects and showing our appreciation. So appreciation, it definitely, we should have a culture that appreciates this. So appreciation is more interpersonal. That, let's say between somebody is doing some service and the organizer appreciates that service. So if somebody sings Kirtan very nicely, and then the organizer says, your Kirtan was very nice. And the first thought that the person comes, why are you telling this to me? You should have announced it on the mic. The Kirtan was very nice. Then glorification is with the public. So we should not be craving glorification. It comes well and good. But appreciation is a normal human need. And see, whatever we are doing, one way we learn whether we are doing it well or not is by the feedback we get from others. So, and often if the feedback is positive, we feel more encouraged to do it more. So as devotees, we should be seeking to do a contribution by which the recognition itself, when you use the word recognition, it can be in the form of appreciation, it can be in the form of glorification. So, see, initially in our lives, we want glorification a lot. We want fame, we want popularity. One of my godbrothers is extremely popular on social media. So he told me that after he hit something like 10 million followers or whatever, social media. So he said that, I realize this fame is not really real. Like instead of, say, we post some video and it becomes viral, gets millions of views, that's some satisfaction. But if one person whom they know or even if they don't know, that person actually gives a meaningful appreciation. This point was well said, the way you presented this. That actually, he said, I value that much more. Sometimes in the initial stage, we will want recognition in terms of glorification. That's understandable. Because the world is so big and we are so small that we all want to feel my existence has some value. And we may measure the value of our existence in terms of how much glorification we get. But over a period of time, it's more the appreciation of those who know, of those who are wise. That is much more important than the glorification by the masses. So appreciation is a healthy human need, and nobody can live without that. Like some people in that t-shirt, kids, especially teenagers, they put it, I don't care what you think about it. But they put it on the t-shirt. I don't care what you think about it. And I care even enough about what you think about me, that's why I'm putting it over there. So nobody can live completely isolated from the world, not caring at all. Okay?
Why do we need even appreciation? Amanina, eventually we don't.
Why do we need appreciation? See, we are not attached to appreciation also. But that is the way relationships happen. What does relationship mean actually? A relationship means that we connect with each other. And we connect based on our positives, we connect based on our negatives also. So I would say that unless we are going to pursue a path of solitary spirituality, it's important that we do things which are generally appreciated. That way we are making a right contribution.
Prabhuji, you have mentioned about 3 important aspects like dharma, artha and kama. So among that, balancing especially for Matajis who is working. who is working, especially in this country, United States, that we have a lot of responsibilities and we have to, working mothers, so we have to balance our work. We have to balance our work, we have to balance our home and family, as well as the spiritual life. So how can we manage and how can we prioritize what is important for us and how can we do all of this?
See, balance is a universal challenge. It is the specifics of that challenge will vary from person to person, but it is a universal challenge. And I think I found 2 or 3 tools very helpful in trying to achieve a balance. One is that we focus more on direction than on pace. What do I mean by direction and pace? That there are some areas in our life in which we want to grow. And so like I said, dharma, artha, kama, all these like professional, relational, spiritual. So in all these areas we want to grow. It may not be possible to do all of these to the equal degree at all times. But it is not that we want to grow only in one area and not in other areas. So if we focus on the direction, if we are defining our growth only in terms of the pace, then we may feel that, oh, I'm not able to do this, I'm not able to do that. But if you focus on the direction, okay, sometimes I'll be able to do more in this, but broadly I want to move in all these directions. So that's what makes for a complete person. So our all-round growth, like the word holistic is very common nowadays. But now within that, how do we manage that? I find that it's very helpful that when we talk about any kind of standards, what we want to achieve, professionally, in terms of relationally, in terms of spiritually. So there are 2 ways of looking at the standards. One is that we have a more like a digital approach to it. Digital approach means that if I am doing this, I'm good. If anything lower than this is bad. So with this, we will constantly live with guilt and frustration and self-recrimination, beating ourselves up. Oh, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing this. And with this, what happens is, like, this is good, or and below this, everything is bad. And quite often, this is a all or nothing kind of approach. We oscillate. I'm serious about my spiritual life. I do everything that I'm expected to do. If I can't do everything, I go to the other extreme and do nothing. So, I met one devotee. He said that he used to come for my classes regularly and just he stopped coming to temple also. So I called him when I had gone to that particular city, and he talked with me on phone. He said that, spiritual life is very important. Okay? And he said that if I'm not doing spiritual life seriously, then I'm offending Krishna. Therefore, I had decided that rather than offending Krishna by doing spiritual life in a half-hearted way, I will do spiritual life seriously in my next life. So now, next life can become a very convenient way of pushing things, important things that I had. I told him next life also will be the same thing. Then where will that stop? So it's not. We shouldn't worry too much in terms of offenses. There are many places where Krishna talks about if you cannot do this, do this, do this. So Krishna is a multi-level approach. He's in 12.8 to 12. He's trying to fix your mind in me and be absorbed in me. If you cannot do that, try to focus on me. If you can't focus on me, then you work for me. If you can't work for me, then work for some good cause. So Krishna is giving multiple levels at which you can work. So similarly, in any area that we are trying to work in, we can have a range of standards from what is desirable to what is non-negotiable. And each one of us, according to time, place, circumstance, can decide. say, what can I do? So if it's Ekadashi. Now, all or nothing approach. When I was I was staying at one place, I was mostly traveling. I was staying in one ashram in India. So there we had some devotees who would fast without any water. So there was a Nirjal club. And then the opposite of this was the Nirlajja club. No, there is no need for it to be called a Nirlajja club here. Still we are fasting. Still we're not just we're taking 1 meal, 2 meals, maybe even 3 meals. But still we are not taking a non-Ekadashi food. So it's not a 1-0 kind of thing, all or nothing kind of approach. So just like with respect to Ekadashi, we have multiple levels. Okay, fasting completely Nirjal may be the highest desirable. But then, even if no matter how hungry you feel, I'm not going to take non-Ekadashi food. That is the non-negotiable. There can be a spectrum over there. And we need to find out where we can best be situated. Because sometimes what happens is we try to go so much for the desirable in one area that we go below the non-negotiable in the completely other area. And that is not good. So I suppose we spend so much time in our job. What to speak of our spiritual life? We don't have time for our family also. Or sometimes we may spend so much time on our spirituality that we don't have time for our job, we don't have time for our family, nothing for our health. That's not also good. So I think in all three areas, or whatever different roles we are playing, we can have a spectrum from desirable to non-negotiable. And we can see where we can be best situated. Okay.
So by the way, by your example, so you are telling us that spirituality can be in our first place and then we have to follow our responsibilities later, or both are simultaneously as important? And
spirituality needs to be in the first place in the big picture. In the big picture means that ultimately it is our relationship with Krishna that matters the most. We are parents, we are spouses, we are professionals. All these are very important roles we play. They are all also temporary designations. They're important, they're not unimportant, but they're not the most important. So there is in our tradition the concept of a hierarchy of arthas. So artha is that which is of value. So there can be, so food is artha. Or water is a basic artha, then food is an artha. Then we want clothing and shelter, that's another artha. Then we want to live, not just have clothing and shelter, we want a respectable clothes, respectable locality of staying. We want some social recognition. So there are many arthas which can grow. Now like that, among all the arthas, Krishna is the Paramartha. Paramartha is that which is the supreme artha. Now quite often we need to have a certain level of the other arthas to be right so that we can get to the Paramartha. That means our health has to be good, our basic relationship has to be good, we have to have some financial stability. Then we can take the step-by-step approach and get to Paramartha. But that does not mean that during that time we don't care for Paramartha at all. We care for all of them, but the Paramartha is meant to be of the supreme importance. So now we could have another approaches. This is the Artha, this is the Paramartha, and from wherever I am, I just take a high jump. So no other Artha matters, only the Paramartha matters. Now it is possible for some people to do that, but many people they try to take the jump and they go down. So in the name of practicing spiritual life, they may give up the Artha and they may not even reach the Paramartha. But that's not a healthy thing. I was in one place, while traveling with all kinds of experiences. So as one person, a devotee introduced me. I knew that devotee would be a little hardline kind of devotee. So he was introducing me. This young man, he said, he's such a serious devotee that when he became a devotee and his wife refused to become a devotee, he divorced her. Now I was thinking, first of all, that it's like doing that thing itself is wrong. You don't give up dharma like this irresponsible. But it's one thing to do it, it's another thing to glorify it. It's another thing to consider that to be a sign of serious devotion. It is not serious devotion, it is serious delusion. Srila Prabhupada, when his spiritual master told him you should spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Prabhupada, what did he say? He was young at that time. Prabhupada said that if I had not been married, I would have joined my spiritual master's mission immediately. But I was married, I had a child. It would have been unfair to them. So Prabhupada executed the responsibilities. So generally, the ideal situations where our dharma, whatever our social roles are, professional roles are, our dharma and our bhakti go together. So yes, our bhakti is more important than other. The bhakti is, you can say, our most important dharma. But just because it is the most important doesn't mean everything else is unimportant. It is that the ideal situation is where we have our dharma. Now, the dharma can be various things. It can be a family, it can be a job, and our bhakti. So, especially Krishna, in 12.13 to 19, he talks about what kind of devotee is dear to me. So there, he's talking all about behavioral qualities. He's not in a single way referring to any devotional activity over there. It doesn't say the devotee who wakes up at early morning and does Mangalarati is dear to me. It doesn't say the devotee who fasts Nirjala Ekadashi is dear to me. Those are important things. But in that particular context, what Krishna is saying is a devotee who is kind to others, who is polite, who does not agitate others, does not get agitated by others. A devotee who is well behaved. That devotee is dear to me. So this is the best situation for us. Now if there is an extreme emergency, now in emergency sometimes we may have to prioritize bhakti over dharma, and sometimes in emergency we may have to prioritize dharma over bhakti. Both are valid. So what does it mean? Certain emergencies. Say if there's a Janmashtami festival and then we may decide I want to take off from my company so that I can go hold the temple and do some seva. If there's a yatra, I want to go for the yatra. At that time, we may decide I'm going to go for this yatra. So we may put aside some other dharma for that time. But that should not be the normal situation. And now of course if there's neither dharma nor the bhakti, then it's not an emergency, it's a disaster. That's not what we want to be in at all. So balance both of them. To answer your question.
Thank you, Prabhuji. We have discussed about art of working for duty at work, and we have discussed about family. So you have beautifully explained with examples and with diagrams, beautiful. So I think we can take away some points. But for our students, for our youth here, if you can shed some light on how can they apply art of working or art of studying in their day-to-day life. Maybe few practical tips that you can give to them.
I told this the other day also. I was one young devotee, was 1890, just got his license. He was driving me around in the city in one particular place for various programs. And then we both, he also liked Shakespeare and other English authors. I also liked those. So we were talking, we became friends. And then one day he told me, I feel as if my parents don't love me at all. I said that, I've seen your parents with you, they care for you. He said, yeah, they care for me. He said, but they care for a future version of me that they want, and till that time they're just tolerating my present version.
I feel that is a very insightful observation.
So of course I told him that, it's good that you have parents who at least care for your future version. There are sometimes parents who don't care for anything at all. Some people don't even have parents. So count our blessings where we have it. But the point is that this is always a tension. That what happens is that there is the present me. There is the present me and there is the future me. So in youth, like in every phase of life, but especially in youth, the actions that we do are going to determine our future. So if we care, say imagine if we're caught in a storm and we had 7 days of food with us and the storm is going to last for 7-8 days. Now we could decide that every day let's take a limited quantity of food so that we'll have it for 7 days. Now if we just say let me have a feast today, and we eat as much as we binge eat, and after 3-4 days we have to starve completely. That's not good. On the other hand, we say that that we don't know how long this will last, so we'll make the food last. So you fast now. And, we may care so much for the future me that if we starve the present me, there will be a food for the future me, but there will be no future me at all. So basically, rather than when we look at discipline, rather than thinking of it as somebody else is telling me do this and don't do this and I have to obey them, we try to see it as it's a negotiation between I as I'm at present. We all want to have some fun in life, we all want to do enjoyable things, but the present me should not enjoy in a way that it ruins the future me. So if in the name of enjoyment I start doing certain things which will lead to bad habits, will lead to consequences that will last for the lifetime, then the present me should not enjoy at the cost of the future. At the same time, in the name of the future me, it is not the present me should be suffering. So if we consider a pendulum over here, if we care only for the present me, then what will happen is there will be stagnation. We will not grow in our life. So we have so much potential that we can improve. It can lead to degradation. So Krishna talks about this as the phenomena of where there is nectar in the beginning but poison in the end. There are things which taste like wonderful right now. Just have fun, just go to party, just enjoy. But then afterwards, there's a long tail of poison. Now, if we care only for the future me and don't care for the present me, then there will be suffocation. I'll feel that, I just feel as if I have no breathing space for myself. And then from there, it will lead to rebellion. It's like, if the children feel pressure too much, then we may be able to pressure for some time, but once they get some autonomy, they go to college, they get a job, and they will completely rebel. That's also not healthy. So basically, discipline, when you talk about it, initially it may be something which the parents talk about as parents, you have to do it. But over a period of time, it should be presented in such a way that it's like a negotiation that each individual, including each child, has to have between the present me and the future. And then we need to care for both. That is in between. Now, how much should I care for the present me? How much should I care for the future me? That each individual has to decide. Some people, they thrive in a lot of discipline. And some people, they're more creative. Not that they waste time, but they need a little more space and spontaneity. Each individual is different, but nobody can live in a way that they care only for the present or only for the future. So I think this is the vision that the Gita gives us, that there is, when we go through life, it is that we are not just going to live in the moment right now. We live right now, we want to live in the future also. The enjoyment for the present me, or the way the present me lives, should be such that the future me doesn't just have a life, but has a better life in the present. That's a broad principle, I would say. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I feel our youth are, fortunately, they are doing both. They are focusing on present me and future me as well, because some of them are already chanting in the morning and they're starting their day positively, chanting and reading Ramayana book. So I'm happy about that, and thank you so much for bringing on all the insights. So now we will open to the question. Our kind of podcast style of session is over, but I am really honored and thankful, grateful that you are able to come and enlighten us. So we will all clap once and say big Haribol to Prabhuji once. So if anyone has any questions, they can raise their hand and we can pass over the mic.
You have asked all the questions.
Went so nicely on the board, Sophia. All the confusion had gone away. No. Go ahead.
Thank you. Very nicely done today.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you very much for the wonderful session. We really learned a lot of things.
Closer, Prabhu.
Yeah, before I ask my question, just one important thing I learned from this session is 2 points I wanted to mention. One thing is the definition of growth. In general, we think about only recognition, but knowing about the contribution factor, that is totally new to me. That really clarifies a lot of things. Second thing you mentioned about the spectrum. So we typically measure done or not done, but we have to look at a spectrum based upon where we are. We have to decide whether contributing or not. Now to my question. You mentioned in one point, God has given us gifts. So can you elaborate how to identify that? Yeah, that's it.
Prabhu, if I knew how to identify that, I would become the world's #1 career counselor. So, broadly, Krishna talks about guna and karma. Guna karma vibhagashaha. Now, these words can be understood in different ways, but you could put it in one way as when we have the guna for something. I can't simplify the guna to operate this pen now. Okay. Sorry. Okay. When we have the guna for something and when we have the karma for something. So guna means if we have the quality for doing something. Remember I talked about intrinsic satisfaction. So here we are able to get content. We feel content in doing something. Even if the world does not recognize, this is what I would like to do. And then when we have the karma for something, then we are competent at doing it. That means on one side we feel good doing something, we feel enriched doing it. And when we have the karma, we are actually objectively able to do it well. Better than others, most people. Not everyone necessarily. So ideally speaking, the gifts that are the most value are the intersection of these two. So, now how do we identify our gifts? Generally, it is through self-observation. It is through self-observation along with association with others, guidance from others. But self-observation, you can just look at our day and see during the day, if we have some level of, we make a schedule. Which are the parts of the day we look forward? Which are the parts of the day we just dread? So if there's something which we look forward to, why do we look forward to that? It's quite likely we have some interest in that activity. That's where we may have some talent, some ability over there. So eagerness is one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is that we may have to experiment. That means, okay, I may find out by self-observation that there are 3-4 things which I am good at. Right now. See, we also keep discovering things. In many ways, our body-mind machine is like a vast, unexplored farm that we have got. We have inherited a farm. And on the farm, in different areas, different kind of fruits can grow. So now we have to find out which fruits will grow where. And that's why sometimes some people may discover a talent at the age of 40, 50, 60 also. So keep self-observation. And okay, this is where I find that I have some interest, some eagerness to do something, and maybe make a license, explore that. If I try to improve something in some area by training, some practice, how much am I able to improve? If I'm able to improve a lot, that means this is an area where I have a gift, and that gift is also ready to be, it's also improvable significantly. So I think self-observation followed by experimentation is what is very good, and especially both of these, they become easier if we are practicing bhakti that gives us some purification. Because what happens is, without purification, we mostly look at ourselves through the eyes of the world. That means we look at what will I do that will give me recognition. So we think of it only in those terms. Self-observation itself is otherwise very difficult. So self-observation, exploration, and then purification. By that, gradually we start discovering what our gifts are and how best we can use them. So thank you very much. Okay, we have a question, one last question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for the enlightening session. So I really like the point where you mentioned about like we more focus about the future me of the kids. And so like I observe for myself like in that case like we guide a lot sometimes to our kids. So like each and every point. So Prabhu, could you please tell us like how can we train them so that they can make correct choices in their life in terms of association, in terms of their friendship, or like choosing the
yeah, so in general, when the kid is very small, it's natural at that time we give them instruction. Instruction is do this, don't do this. That don't take food given by strangers. That's the instruction. And that's what is required when they're very small. But as they grow older, it's very important that we give them vision rather than instruction. So instruction is do this, don't do this. Vision is if you do this, this will happen. If you do this, this will happen. That's why I'm recommending you do this. So if we don't do that, then the two things are going to happen. They won't be able to take decisions on their own. And they will become too dependent on us. But the problem is, as they grow, they naturally will want to exercise their autonomy. That's just natural. And if we are not equip them with vision, then what will happen is, they don't consult us because they want to take their own decisions. And they don't have the vision, then they may often take unwise decisions. So as early as possible, we try to start giving them vision. If I'm telling you to do this, now we may say it's obvious. If you study, this will happen. If you don't study, this will happen. That's obvious for us, but it may not be that obvious for them. So if you give the vision, then it becomes much clearer for them. And then nobody can guarantee that they will always take good decisions, but we can create the best foundation for that.
at what age we should give the vision?
I would say as early as possible, when we start feeling that they can start understanding. See, because what happens is parenting is like a job in which you start. It's a very difficult job. Why? Because the role changes so rapidly. It's like initially we have the executive role, and then it's like there is no information. Suddenly we find we have been shifted to an advisory role. And then afterwards, we have been dismissed from the advisory role also, it seems like. So now when exactly this transition happens from executive to advisory, so when our child is small, we stand guard. We don't let anything bad happen to our children. We take the decisions for them, and it's important. But as they grow, they will take their decisions. So I think the earlier we start equipping them, helping them understand. So going back to this particular diagram, present me and future me, the children, they cannot see the future me very easily. But that doesn't mean that they don't care for the future. Just that they can't see it. So we need to give them the vision of how this action will affect you in the future. And to the extent we give them that vision, then they will start caring, because ultimately they who have to live with the choices of their actions. Sorry, the choice, not choice, the consequences of their choices. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Jai Gaura Premanande.
His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu ki Jai.